Welcome to Unit 2, Lecture 4. So this is the last lecture for the unit, and it's about photosynthesis. Now, one of the things that I want you to talk about, or want you to understand, is that yes, photosynthesis is plants. Cellular respiration is plants and animals. Now, I know we talk a lot about photosynthesis in the scope of plants, and we talk about cellular respiration in the scope of animals, but remember that cellular respiration is actually both of them working together. Okay? So we went over this picture at the beginning of the last lecture. All right, plants go through photosynthesis and they produce these things. Okay, animals use it. Okay, animals and plants produce carbon dioxide and water, and then plants use the carbon dioxide and water to create, along with the sun, to create carbohydrates and oxygen. Remember, in the form of glucose. So we're kind of on this side of the diagram today. Okay. So leaf structure is really important to making photosynthesis happen, because this is where it actually happens. All right, anywhere you see these green little dots. So all of these green dots, okay, are chloroplasts. And in the chloroplasts, that's where photosynthesis will occur. All right, so when we think about the leaf, all right, so right here especially, okay, which is called the mesophyll. We've got technically two pieces to the mesophyll, but the mesophyll is where a lot of photosynthesis happens. Okay, and then we've got these things called guard cells, all right, which are and stoma. So these are the holes for gas exchange. So this is where CO2 and O2 come in and out, and in some cases some water vapor as well. Guard cells just basically make sure the stoma are open or closed. Okay, depending on what it wants at the time. The guard cells will open or close, okay, to open or to, I should say, expand or shrink, all right, to open or close those holes. Okay, so those are the things that I'm really concerned about: the mesophyll, the stoma, and the guard cells when it comes to the structure of a leaf, because those are the things that are really important for photosynthesis. Xylem, okay, and phloem, they're basically what, for lack of a better word, they're kind of like blood veins in a plant. So they move stuff around. So water from the roots is going to actually come up through the xylem. So that's where water is going to come up from the roots. Okay? So photosynthesis is another redox reaction, just like cellular respiration. And here is our equation. Okay, so we end up having carbon dioxide and water through the power of sun. So sun is basically the power here. It's solar powered. Haha. Okay, creates our water, or excuse me, our glucose, our water, and our oxygen. Now you notice, okay, water is both a reactant and a product, but that's because that water also has to go to help build other stuff. So there's a lot of things that go on, a lot of steps, scientific magic, if you will, that we're not necessarily going to get into deep with, just because I think it gets way too complicated, way more complicated than you really need. But just so you know, okay, this is how it all breaks down. Remember, matter cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be rearranged. So using the power of the sun and the chloroplast in the plants, we are rearranging carbon dioxide and water into these things. Okay? So photosynthesis, this is going to be a really important picture. All right, when I want you to realize that. So here we are, once again, biggest thing, in, what goes in, what comes out, and where it happens. Okay, kind of very similar to cellular respiration. So ins, okay, up here, we've got our ins, all right. Down here, we've got our outs. So we've got a couple of different steps here, and I'm actually going to change my pen color so it stands out a little bit against the red text. All right, so we have 2 steps, whereas in cellular respiration we had 3 steps. In photosynthesis we got 2 steps. 2 steps, light reactions and the Calvin cycle. Okay, and then everything that's on the top here is a reactant. Everything that's on the bottom here is a product, and then this stuff just kind of goes back and forth between both reactions. So this stuff in the middle. I realize you probably can't see me pointing. So this stuff in the middle right here goes back and forth between both steps. So the light reactions take light, hence the reason they're called the light reactions, and water, and happen here in this thing called the thylakoid. Okay. And what it does is it creates ATP, NADPH2. Okay, and these 2 things go into the Calvin cycle with carbon dioxide. All right, and then light reactions spit out our oxygen. Okay, and that is released. And then the Calvin cycle spits out our glucose to be used for energy, and then NADP plus and ADP and P go back into the light reactions to basically be re-energized. So NADPH, NADPH2, okay, we're going to pretend that the P stands for photosynthesis because we had NADH and FADH2 in cellular respiration. We're going to pretend that the P stands for photosynthesis. So NADPH2 is basically the exact same thing in that it's a book bag. It's a cellular book bag carrying energy into the Calvin cycle. All right, so when we're looking at photosynthesis, we've got 2 steps, light reactions and the Calvin cycle. Okay, and then the reactants here create the products down here. Okay. All right. Wrap up. Use your textbook or the internet to define these terms. Okay, so thylakoids, stroma, stomata, guard cells, and photosystem. All right, I will see you in class.